So I'm a regular reader of Techdirt because they have good coverage on a lot of stories, and I like how dedicated they are to linking to as many primary sources as possible. But that doesn't mean they're right about everything. For example, I've criticized them in the past for drinking the net neutrality Kool-Aid. Here's one they just posted criticizing the upcoming 5G standard, and it really seems like it's this article, not 5G, that's hype and even clickbait. So let's go through it. Buried underneath the blistering hype surrounding 5th generation 5G wireless is a quiet but growing consensus. The technology is being overhyped, and early incarnations were rushed to market in a way that prioritized marketing over substance. That's not to say that 5G won't be a good thing when it arrives at scale several years from now, but early offerings have been almost comical in their shortcomings. Oh, come on, it's not even a standard yet. You have a limited rollout of early prototypes. What are you reasonably expecting from that? They even say that when they quote Mike Dano as saying, "What of the other fancy features of 5G, like massive IoT and ultra-low latency? Specifications for these technologies are scheduled for availability in, wait for it, 2020, when the 3GPP's Release 16 is scheduled to be finished." What we have so far is just the first phase of the release. What he's talking about is the second phase to come next year. These guys are reminding me of Thunderfoot. They don't seem to realize that developments take time and have to happen incrementally. The current standard of 5G rollouts is pre-standard implementations, and you don't want to do a huge rollout on that until you understand how the specifications are going to change. None of this is to say that these early deployments aren't providing some very useful knowledge that will inform broader development. You don't say, considering that's their purpose. The whole point is to put it in a real-world scenario and see how it shakes out. The experience here is going to inform both the specification and the implementation in the future. And when real 5G does start to slowly materialize over the next decade or so, the ultra-low latency and high speeds will ultimately help improve connectivity, provided it's available to you. But consumer groups like the EFF continue to point out how 5G hype is obscuring our repeated failure to deploy fiber necessary to feed cellular towers across America despite countless billions in subsidies having been thrown at telecom giants. The EFF is another organization I've been disappointed in this area. If they'd listened to their late founder, John Perry Barlow, he was trying to correct them on their misapprehensions about net neutrality when he died in 2018. The reason why most ISPs aren't deploying fiber is that most ISPs are cable providers. Cable is working on deploying their latest standard, DOCSIS 3.1, which will give speeds equivalent to fiber, basically 10 gigabits per second down and 2 up. And even a full duplex version with 10 gigabits both ways, over existing coaxial cable, which means they won't have to deal with the immense expense of digging and laying new cable. The EFF and Techdirt are acting like it's either fiber or we stay where we are, and that just isn't so. But telecoms are laying a lot of fiber to cell phone towers. This is not only to deal with ever-increasing bandwidth demands, but also in preparation for 5G. 5G requires either fiber connections between cell towers or more cell towers placed more closely together. In most places, they seem to be opting for laying fiber, but in certain areas where digging is difficult or expensive for various reasons, they may opt for placing additional towers. Meanwhile, these early 5G marketing missteps are creating an aura of distrust in the minds of American consumers. Really? If you grabbed a random person off the street, is that the story they'd tell you? I think you'll find that most of them aren't aware of these supposed issues with the 5G prototype rollouts. Heck, most of them probably have only a passing familiarity with 5G itself, if they're even familiar with it at all. Instead of being directly and clearly shown what the standard can do in the form of fully cooked product, that's not the point of this. The point is to do an early implementation to see what issues they run into. It's not to show it off to the public, it's so that they can learn what these issues are going to be, and do it now instead of later when it'll be much more expensive to fix. Consumers are being taught that carriers still can't really be trusted to accurately portray where or when the technology will be available to them. It's not even a standard yet. Why should they have to give reliable deployment dates of technology that doesn't even exist? And that's, of course, before you get to know how much more 5G is going to cost everyone, or how many nickel and dime restrictions will be included in these next-generation networks in the wake of the repeal of net neutrality, hampering its full competitive potential. Yeah, you guys have been whining about this the whole time, yet since the repeal, the average American's internet connections have gotten faster and a lot more reliable. And of course 5G is going to cost you extra, just like 4G cost extra when it first came out. Why is this any kind of surprise, let alone something to get outraged about? If you click the link to their own article about this, you'll see that they're complaining about a whopping $10 extra a month. Oh, boo-hoo! Is the spoiled little baby not being given everything for free? And I can't help but notice that these people always complain about the expense, but never argue against the regulations that help make them so expensive to begin with, despite the fact that most of these regulations have nothing to do with protecting consumers and everything to do with protecting traditional telecoms from competition. Don't believe me? Why don't you just try getting a permit to build a new cell tower or lay some cable and see what you run into? The other link is complaining about so-called throttling, which is really the same kind of data plan we've been accustomed to. You get an unlimited connection, but only a certain amount of it is 4G. Use up your 4G, and you drop down to slower 3G speeds, unless you pay more for a bigger 4G cap. Hey, guess what? Infrastructure costs money. And by the way, that was the case the whole time net neutrality was in place, and was perfectly allowed by it. This isn't the first time some net neutrality nutbar has pretended that this is something new they only started doing because IG Pie is so evil. It seems to me that the people who are creating the hype and mistrust are people like Techdirt, the EFF, and Mike Dano. So thanks for watching another video. Please hit like, subscribe, and the bell, and also consider supporting this channel using the links at donate.blogosity.tv. You can make a one-time donation with PayPal or crypto, become a regular supporter at Patreon or Subscribestar, or install the Airtime extension and support all your favorite channels and websites while making a little bit of cryptocurrency for yourself. Until next time, stay strong and be free.